What's up, everyone? This is Pastor Greg from C3 Saskatoon, joining you here on Zoom or through Zoom. Just super excited about today, about this Sunday. We are going to be joined here by Pastor Brock in a few moments. And then today we're actually going to be interviewing our C3 South Africa mission team here on Zoom. So every one of them is going to be logging on and we're going to be interviewing them and just getting some feedback from the trip. It has been just under 2 weeks since we got home from South Africa. And so we've all been self-isolating, which has actually been a blessing in disguise because after a trip like that, it has been such a blessing to come home and just have some time to process and some time to reflect and some time to just sit back and let God really speak to you and show you what the transformation that has happened in and through you. So what's up, Pastor Brock?
Hey, sorry if that took a while. I was trying to get it all working.
That's all good. Doing good. Doing very good. How are you?
Doing well as well. Here, let's just get that set up. Woo!
Nice.
I'm just checking how much sweat I got on me. My wife and I just took the kids for a walk, and it was like, let's just keep going. Another half hour, another 45 minutes, another hour, and you're just like, okay, we've tuckered these kids out now. Yeah. That we can stay in the house for a while without them.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
So,
yes.
Yeah, how was your week?
Our week has been very good. Yeah, it's been it's been pretty nice just being home, getting lots of, for us, we work from home anyways when we're not touring. So we're used to working from home, and it's been pretty nice just getting things done. Obviously having kids in self-isolation is very challenging, especially when even grandma and grandpa can't watch him. So for us, just try to figure out how to, been doing some writing stuff and some reading stuff and trying to get the kids learned.
Yeah. So get his brain power somehow, absorbing all that physical power, and he can rest that night.
That's right. That's right.
But we're just out in the backyard as much as we can. Also, hey, hello, church. Welcome to Sunday morning. It's just beautiful outside. The sun is shining. Like, I just can't wait till a little bit more of the snow melts in the backyard and my kids can just run around there for like half the day.
It'll be glorious.
Are you guys like that too? Like you have like a little kiddie pool and a little tiny trampoline, like those little ones, and some toys, and Ezekiel can just go?
We unfortunately don't, because we live in a townhouse complex. So what we have is like 30 kids that are all Ezekiel's age. So we open up the back door and there's just a gang of kids ready and willing to play, which again, right now we can't, but soon. So
well, soon, your 14 days, or if they extend it to 21, however many days it is, and Ezekiel can go play.
That's right. Yeah. So Pastor Brock,
hey.
Go for it. I was going to say, why don't you tell us what's coming up this week?
Okay, so here's some announcements. The big one is that with the help of Krista Leland, I just mess it up all the time. Bless you, Krista. We started supply drop at c3saskatoon.com, and the basic info for that is I'll share right now, but you're going to want to email us at hello@c3saskatoon.com for all the info. The basic info is we just want to help from the very top. So that's people that have been affected by the virus and they cannot leave, to people that are just like very weak immune systems, to people that are just completely unable to leave their house. We wanted to do this thing called supply drop. It'll extend beyond that to people that are just down and without because of, economy and all that. But the basic is we just want to be able to bless you guys with the essentials and love the people. Like if it's your grandma, she doesn't attend C3, it's okay. We want to bless some people. And the goal is to buy as much as we can from local Broadway businesses. So we're loving the people in our area and just we're there for one another, even though we're all going through this quarantine time. But the basics of that I just shared. You're going to want more info on that. hello@c3saskatoon.com. Please just get some more info on that.
That sounds awesome.
You got one there, Greg?
Yeah, on Thursday night, we are going to be starting a Bible study through Zoom. We're trying to just get a little bit more interactive for those of you who are self-isolated at home and just want some contact, some human connection. We're going to do it through Zoom. So we're going to do a Bible study on Thursdays. So if you can DM us on Instagram or email us and give us your information so we can add you to that group. I haven't decided yet what book of the Bible we're going to study. So if you can actually, when you message us that you want to be part of it, give us your suggestions on what book of the Bible you want to study, and we will get you on there. You can
my kids run through the frame as well.
Yeah.
One more announcement. Tuesday night, yes, Suns is going to be starting up again. So we're going to be going through some theology. That's going to be 7 p.m. Tuesday night. And I've already sent out the email last week about that. It's like DM me as well. It's going to be on Zoom. So if you want in on that, just message me, brock@c3saskatoon.com. All right. So you're going to be interviewing the South Africa C3 missions team.
Yes.
And I'm going to be watching. But before that happened, I just wanted to have some worship for everyone in their homes. So, Greg, I'm going to play the piano, and you just sing this morning, okay?
Sounds like a plan.
Hey, so this is a song that we've all sang at our church a dozen times. And this is actually how we wrote it. We wrote it on the piano. So here we go. This is Gravity. And the lyrics are on c3saskatoon.com if you hit the music button as well. So just so you know. All right, thank you, God. Thank you, God. We just commit this morning to Jesus. I was lost, alone at sea, came for me. I was bound, love was strong, broke the chains off of me. Gonna sing with me, Zane? I saw you reaching out your hand to me. There was a gravity, and I'm next to you. You surrounded me in your loving arms. This is all I need. And the weight of sin that was crippling has been taken off of me. Your love is all that I want. Confidence, my hiding place for all my days. If ever I feel afraid, I call your name. See your name, Jesus, my Jesus. You're with me, and you'll never leave. There goes gravity, and I'm next to you. You're surrounding me in your loving arms. This is all I need. And the weight of sin that was crippling has been taken off of me. Your love is all that I want, all that I want. You are, and you are, you are. All that I want, all that I want. You are, you are, you are. All that I want, all that I want, and I'm next to you, and I'm next to you, surrounded me, your loving arms. This is all I need. The weight of sin I was crippled with has been taken off of me. Your love is all that I want. One more time, sing. I'm next to you. Sing it with me. And I'm next to you. Surrounded me in your loving arms. This is all I need. And the weight of sin that was crippling has been taken off of me. Your love is all that I want, all that I want. Amen. So we are not afraid. We stand strong because of the name of Jesus, right, Zane? And he's next to us.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm gonna hop offline. I'm gonna be commenting on the YouTube where all you guys be talking. I'm so pumped for this morning.
Awesome. Thank you, Pastor Brock. All right. We are going to try to figure out how we switch over to the other Zoom meeting. Here we go. Stay with us. We'll be right back. What's up, C3 Church, Saskatoon?
Oh.
Everybody.
Yeah. We are coming at you live from our living rooms because we are all quarantined for the last 12 days. We, as our son puts it, we get out of jail in 2 days. It's going to be awesome. But it is cool because we got back almost 2 weeks ago from our trip to South Africa. As a team, as a church, we were there for 2 weeks, and it was phenomenal. We're going to share some stories and just tell you guys about the impact of those 2 weeks that we had there in South Africa. And it was a little hectic coming back to all of this Corona stuff, but it's given us a lot of time in our homes to reflect and process and really pray into what God has been trying to say to us and speak to us. And so we're really excited to just share with you guys the impact and not just the impact we had there, but the impact that God has had on us here. And so that's kind of what we're going to do. We're just going to take a few moments and just share some stories and cool things like that. But before we do that, I want to just talk us through kind of what the 2 weeks look like over there. And then Chantel is going to share with us a little bit just the vision of Hands at Work, the organization that we worked with there in South Africa, and the amazing work they're doing all over Africa and actually here in Canada, and more importantly, here in Saskatoon. So we're going to share kind of a little bit of that stuff before we get into our own stories. And so the 2 weeks they were busy. They were very busy. It started off with us heading out. The first community that we went to was Sthobella B, which is the community that Chantal, myself, and Winston and JC have partnered with in the last 3 years. So this was our third trip there. And Sthobella B is just such an incredible community there in an area called Oshuk in South Africa. And basically what we did, and I say I got sick the first couple of days, so I didn't even actually go the first day. I just stayed at home and slept because my body wasn't cooperating. But we went and visited. What we would do is wake up in the morning, we go to the community hub, the Sthobella B base, where we would then go and we'd get together, we would pray, with the care workers, and then the care workers and us would go and we would separate into groups, 2, 3, 4 groups, and go and visit go and visit the grandmas or the providers of the home, that the kids that would be coming later on in the day, and go and see them. And what that is called, we call it a holy home visit, where we go and we don't leave until we feel like God has shown up and done something. And I think for a lot of us, we could probably say that was maybe some of the most impactful ministry that we did on this trip, was actually going to the homes that these kids are living in, and getting to meet the providers, the care providers for them, and just get to sit with them and hear their stories and their struggles and their battles, but also to hear of their faith and their joy and their perseverance, and getting to hear their stories and get to pray with them and get to go get water for them and get to cut wood for them and all this. It's so incredible. So most mornings we'd start with that, we'd pray, then we'd go and we'd walk and visit the community, the houses, the go-go's, and then we would come back. And when we come back to Sthobella B, we would we would help prep food, prep the meal for that day, and the kids would come right after school. There's a bus that brings the kids, and there's 75 kids that come to Sthobella B, and they would get off the bus, and we would play with them. And that looked different every day, from soccer to jump rope to dancing to singing to, I don't know, we did everything. And as well, we would then also help just serve them a meal, which again, it's such a I'll say a humbling experience to be able to sit and share a meal with these kids and get to talk with them and get to engage with them and get to laugh with them and play with them and sing with them. And it is just, there's nothing like it. And so we did that for the first 3 days that we were in Sthobella B. And after that, we actually stayed in the Osher community and we led a youth camp, a youth leadership camp. And so we had 30 kids, not just from Sthobella B, but a few other of the hubs that they have around the Osher area, came to the community base. Is that right? The service center. And we had 2 days where we got to hang out with some of the older kids, the high school age kids, and we got to really invest in those kids. And it was so powerful. We all got into 4 teams, and we got about 6 or 7 kids into each one of our teams, and we got a chance to just really invest into those kids. Chantel and Winston taught one of the workshops we do with Legacy One called Flip the Script, where we actually give kids the tools to create their own mission statement for their life. And I have actually some videos of some of the kids who got up and shared their mission statement, the statement that they've come up with for their life. And they all would start the same. They'd say, I'm a child of God. And I am, and they would list 3 qualities, 3 characteristics of who they are: creative, kind, loving, one of something like that. And then they would list the one thing, like, I'm not afraid to fail. I won't back out on my dreams. I won't compare my script to others. And it was so powerful to see these kids get up in front of their peers and share their mission statement. It was just an incredible weekend. We got to spend so much time with these kids. We got to hang out with them, play games with them, but we got to speak in their lives. We got to get to know them on a name, first name basis. We got to pray with them. We got to hear their stories. And so I think you're going to hear more of those stories coming out here later on in this time. But that was so powerful. And then the second week that we were there, we actually went and visited just 2 other communities that were that Hands at Work care for and have service centers in. And again, it was awesome, helping prep food, serving meals, getting to go and visit the homes that these kids are coming from. It's also heartbreaking. The one community that we went into, they told us that 95% of the kids that were coming had been sexually assaulted. They said in that community that a 5-year-old girl has a higher statistic of being raped than learning how to read. And that is just the reality of the communities that we were going into and working in. And so for us, just getting a chance to speak love and truth and get to play and hang out with these kids and just believe that God is doing a healing work in these, and not just in the kids, it's in the community, in the community, in the service center with the care workers. God is doing just incredible healing work. And so it was so humbling to be a part of that. And so I'm going to let Chantel kind of share maybe a little bit more just the overall vision of Hands at Work and what they are doing as an organization.
Yeah, so one of the things I love about Hands at Work is it's not about people coming into communities that they don't have any relationship with, or maybe don't know about the community, but it's actually working with the local church in communities, and they're the ones who are leading the vision within the community. So Hands at Work, their vision is to serve the most vulnerable in Africa. And the most vulnerable are people who they are children and go-go's that have been, a lot of them have been affected by the AIDS pandemic, that a lot of children have lost their parents because of AIDS or HIV and are now either, 12-year-olds, they're the primary caregivers to their siblings and friends, or it's as well go-go's who are the grandmas caring for these kids. One of the grandmas that we met, she's 104 years old. So they are themselves in really vulnerable situations, and these are the ones who are the primary caregivers now left to care for the kids. So this is the community and the people that Hands at Work has specifically placed on their radar is not the best word, but they're the ones that they're sort of working with to provide some essential services, food. I'm just gonna look up here. So food, education, and some basic health care. And Greg talked a little bit about the care points. So that's where kids would come and they would get a meal, and often that's the only meal that kids would get for that day. They are within the communities. The reason that they're doing home visits and partnering with the leaders within the community is so that they know where the kids are coming from. They know their needs, because often kids come in the school uniforms, and from the outside it actually can look really awesome and really, they don't often look like they're in need. But when you get in a home, when you're talking to their grandma or their care worker or maybe just an older sibling, you get to know what their actual needs are, what is going on beyond the surface of what it might appear to be. And then education. One of the things in South Africa, it's required that kids have uniforms. And so even that cost is it's huge when these families don't have any income. So even just providing the basic clothing that the kids need to be able to get into schools is sort of where Hands at Work focuses in on. But going back to working, their goal is to work with the local church so that and the local church are the ones within the communities that are living there. They go into a community, and what they call them the Mother Teresas of the community. So they identify women, and we'll go into more of that, but they identify the people who are already taking care of the children, know who's in need, knows their community, and they'll partner with those people so that they can identify who's in the most in need, where they need to be, and how they can serve them. And then the Mother Teresas are actually the ones who are leading the vision. It's not like an outside organization. So when we went, it's not like us coming in being like, we should do this, you guys need this, da 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 da. It's we were partnering and just really shadowing the local workers who are already there. And if you've ever done any type of job that is tedious, that sometimes doesn't feel rewarding, you need people around you. And so that's what the main part of people coming is, to encourage those Mother Teresas and the people who are in it daily, to say, hey, you're not alone. We see you, we're hearing your stories, and we want to be here to encourage you. And if you've ever been in a situation where just the words of encouragement, it actually goes a long way. Sometimes it sounds small when you're just saying we're there to partner and encourage, but being in those situations, it honestly completely changes dynamic and the culture of the community, which is what Hands at Work is doing. They're trying to encourage and build the leadership within the communities so that they can care for their people, that they have the, some of the resources, that they can care for them, they can provide the essential services, and that they're partnering with the church globally. So Hands at Work is an amazing organization, and it's really humbling to be a part of them, because they are they're there to serve the people, and it's not about coming in with our ideas, but we've learned, and I think everyone on the team can probably speak into, we've learned so much from the go-go's and the care workers who are caring for the kids every single day. I'm just going to share a quick story of one of the go-go's that we we met in one of our home visits. So this Gogo is a Zulu woman who is probably in her 70s, Busiwe. And she, when we first got there, she was like, so there was a few of us who came. Put your hand up if you were in that home visit. Okay. So we came, and we'll take you on a journey, okay? So we are walking up to this woman's home, okay? And she doesn't speak English, and we don't speak Zulu, and we are there to visit her. And like what Greg said, is one of the things a holy home visit is, they stay until they feel the Holy Spirit has shown up and has moved. And that can be really awkward when you don't speak their language, they don't speak your language, and you're just sitting on their doorstep, not leaving. So we got there, and she was pretty, like, her facial expressions were the best. She's like, could be the best actor in the world. She was so dynamic, but she was really standoffish and just like didn't want a lot to do with us. And we had translators, so we were trying to ask questions. How's your day? Like, just learn a little bit about her. And then we asked her if, like, where did she go to get water? And she went, how far do you guys think it was? Like a kilometer? Am I right? Maybe? But it's like up like mountain terrain. And so she's like, it's over there, it's really far. And we're like, well, can we go get water for you? And she like laughed. She's like, oh, you wouldn't be able to do that. And we're like, okay, well, now we have to go. So we're gonna go. And so we like grabbed buckets. Greg was still sick, so he like stayed behind and chopped wood for her. And so we went to this little stream. It's like Steve was like down like in the river scooping water out, trying to get into like these buckets. We're like walking back with pails on our head, and we just are an embarrassment to that ability because they can carry an astonishing amount of weight. But we're trying to bring this water back. And when we got back, her whole demeanor was like completely different. She was like a completely different woman. And it's just like, it's one thing to say, God loves you, he has a plan for you, he's there with you. And there's another thing to be like, okay, well, let's like pitch in and help with what you need, what's going on in your life. And we were only there for a day, but the people that we're partnering with are there. They continue to visit. They continue to they're checking in and to seeing how they are. And so it's not like sort of like a hit and run, but like we were just shadowing the people that were there doing that daily. And so it was amazing. Her whole demeanor like totally changed. She came and hung out at the care point the next day and was like dancing around, and the other go-go's were like, who is this woman? Like they were just like never seen her act like that. She was like goofy, and it was just like really cool because the other workers they just were like, they could see how impacting that visit was, and just to see that, you know, people care, that she's seen, that she's noticed. And so yeah, it's really awesome to be a part of those visits. And
yeah
yeah,
we're gonna talk more at the end about how you can get involved with Hands at Work, but I think we're gonna go into letting some of the other team talk here now that they're all sitting there so patiently. It's fun when you can see everyone in these things. So I'm just going to ask the team, I'm going to throw it out there just to give us a couple highlights. What are some of the highlights for you guys as you think back on your time in South Africa? Maybe Jacqueline, if you want to start for us, please.
Okay, well, I will never forget the first community we visited. The first care point was Oshik, And our team, along with some other hands at work leaders, were just walking across the field, just approaching this care point. And we could see in the distance, once it became into view, the children starting to come. And, as we got closer, the children were running across the field. And, once we got to them, they would throw their arms around us and hug us. And it was really incredible. And that happened actually over and over again at pretty much every care point that we visited. And it just felt like a little piece of heaven here on earth. And it's something that, I go back to and think about regularly, and just a definite highlight for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Who wants to share next highlight of the trip? Ashley, you got one for us?
Sure. I think of the song Waymaker a lot these days. One of the girls that came to our youth camp stayed and was just chatting with us, and she asked me if I knew this song, and I wasn't sure, and she started singing the lyrics, and we ended up bringing it up and singing the whole song through together. And it was just that connection that we were able to make through music and through song that was special for me.
That's awesome. We have one more highlight. Steve.
Oh, there we go. I think for me, I got to share this with the Go-Go's when we had them all gathered together through a translator. But I think a lot of people can identify in C3. It's a very entrepreneurial crowd, a young crowd. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of people that have developed really awesome businesses, that have grown mega churches, and you lead from you learn from their leadership styles and how they do things. But watching the care workers, these women that show up day in and day out with a smile on their face, they're playing games, they're not complaining about everything. This is now the standard of leadership that I'm going to look up to for the rest of my life. And if they made podcasts about these ladies, people all over the world would learn so much. So it changed me forever, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. So Lindsay, how would you say that God showed himself to you on this trip? What's a way that God showed up? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. I wrote 3 things down so I could remember and just keep it straight. I think the first, and what I didn't expect, was the way that he showed himself to me through nature throughout the whole trip. I had kind of pictured South Africa, so close to Kruger Park, to be like this barren desert. And every road that we took and every path that we walked was just a new adventure that he was leading us on, and to see his creation. And just to be able to appreciate that fully. I love that so much. We got the chance to walk to Sthobella B with Anita, which was just this beautiful 45-minute walk through the valley over a stream, and seeing his hand in that community and just how beautiful it was really, really special. Jacqueline, like you said about the kids, that was so moving to me. Jesus says, let the little children come to me. And that's how I felt when they would run up and touch your hair, and you just let them, touch your hands and your rings and look at your tattoos. I just felt God's presence there through the kids. And then the last thing that I really saw was the leadership with hands at work. Everybody was so receptive to God's will and his way, and they were never hesitant to pray and to ask the Holy Spirit for guidance and to come together in community, and just the willingness to walk and be the hands and feet of Jesus was so moving. And I really love to be a part of it. And Hands at Work, the volunteers that they have in Africa are absolutely amazing, and you can tell that it's just their calling on their life to be there, and that they care so much about the kids. And that was really moving to me. So that's my answer.
The leadership there is, I remember one of our first trips there, we were part of their team, their leadership meeting, and it was all the leaders from the base were meeting together, and they were wrestling with the question, have we become too comfortable? And I was like, we're talking about people who have literally sold everything they own to move to South Africa to be a part of this ministry, serving some of the most vulnerable people in the world. And they're challenging themselves about comfort. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, I'm supposed to be asking that question, not you guys. So anyways, their leadership is phenomenal. Bailey, what would you say has been one of the most, was one of the most challenging parts to the trip?
So for me, I feel like just like going into the trip, God had really been like challenging me and convicting me, and just being present and like loving other people well, and just that idea was on my heart throughout the whole trip. And like you said, I think it can be really difficult to like go in to do short-term missions, and just like knowing that you're going to have to leave, and just seeing how much pain and like there is, I guess, in these communities. Like you brought up some of the statistics that are just like absolutely heartbreaking. Yeah, just like hearing about the just like how deep ingrained like sexual abuse is, and like hearing stories of 5-year-olds that have been raped. It's just so heartbreaking, that yeah, I think it can be really overwhelming to like love people through that. But one story that just like comes to my mind immediately when I think of this is just seeing the service center staff. Like every night we would do debrief after like the day, and it was on the second day of the youth camp, or the first night of the youth camp, like going into the second day. We were just like debriefing, and it had been such a long day already. Like I was exhausted, and it was really cold out too. I just like remember that. And one of the service center and like hands at work staff just kind of brought up this idea of like, tomorrow, you know, we really want to go deep with the kids. Like we want to really like love them well, and just like enter in and hear their stories. And the day before, like we played lots of games and sung songs, and that is like fun, and I think that that is so on the heart of God. But just going along with what was like personally challenging to me, just that idea of like sitting with these people and hearing their stories, even like as heartbreaking as they can be, and just accepting that like us as volunteers and just like as human beings don't need to have all the answers. I think it can be intimidating sometimes to sit down with people and just like be with them, but that's really like all that God asks us, is to just, you know, like enter in, to be present. You don't need to have the answers. You just need to like let them know that they're seen, that they're loved. And that was definitely what challenged me the most throughout this whole trip. Like just that idea of being present and being really intentional to love people in a way that like goes beyond the surface of just like having fun and like playing games, but to really like deep dive and get to know these kids better. Like on my heart, especially just like the teenagers at the youth camp, getting to know them and hear their stories. I am pretty young. Like during the trip, I was just exiting my teenage years. So it just like is so close to my heart to hear people's stories that are in like such a similar, I guess, time of their life as me, but we are just like from two different worlds almost. So yeah, that was what was the most challenging for me, but I think God like showed me so much through it and was just like so faithful through it all. Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Yeah, there's so many different challenges that you face when you leave the world that we know, you know, the culture that we know, and you enter into a new culture. There's so many different things that can challenge you, and they can come at you in some of the most unexpected ways, just conversations, food, you name it. And it's really challenging. So Jordan, what would you say has been probably the most impacting in terms of your faith? What has impacted your faith the most from this trip?
Yeah, I was reflecting on this, and I think going into this trip, I did really feel a call from God that I was meant to go on this trip. But at the same time, I was just feeling, I guess, some doubts as to how God was going to show up, like how he was going to use me, use my gifts, doubting that he was just, I guess, going to show up in those moments and speak to me and really lead me. And so one of the first nights of the trip, I just sat down and I said, God, I'm just like really feeling doubtful. I'm feeling kind of like far from you. And then I just prayed and I opened my Bible. So like, what do you want to like teach me? I'm just going to trust that you're going to show me something. And the first verse that I opened was a verse on doubt and how when we ask something of God, that we need to ask him without doubting, and that he will gratefully give us those things. And so that right there was like, okay, God, like I'm gonna go forward. I'm gonna fully trust you. I'm just gonna like do my best to remove this doubt from my mind and just see what you have for us like over the next few weeks. And then over the 2 weeks there was like really challenging, and I think we stepped out of our comfort zones a lot. And I can think of so many small ways that God like showed up and used us in like just very unexpected ways. And I guess one example that kind of comes to my mind is during the youth camp. We were really challenged to connect with at least one person on a deeper level. And like Bailey said before, that can be a little bit intimidating. Like teenagers can sometimes be really closed off. But I think we really just prayed into that. Like, who does God want us to connect with on a deeper level? And right away, God put one person on my heart just for the remainder of that weekend. And that first day, we kind of had a few interactions, talked a little bit. And then going into the second day, I just thought, okay, God, like she's still on my heart. Like, how are we going to get past these barriers, these cultural barriers, the language barriers, the age difference, just so many things. But I just trusted, like, okay, I think she's on my heart for a reason. And then the kids were given an opportunity to just choose one of us, I guess, to sit down with one-on-one to get to know us a little bit deeper. And right away she looked over at me and she like waved. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know that she like really noticed me. Like we hadn't had a lot of connections up until that point, but it just was like reaffirming that God had put her on my heart for a reason. And then gave me the opportunity to sit down with her one-on-one. And I thought that was really cool. And there was just several different things like that where God was just like speaking to me that like we all have our own gifts, and that when we just like step out of our comfort zones, trust in him, that he will show up and use those moments in just so many different ways. And then I think lastly, just God really encouraged me through seeing the faith of the care workers and of the leaders at Hands at Work, and just the challenges that they face, but how they just step forward with so much like hope and so much thankfulness, and that they just face so many challenges, but they just go to homes, they visit people, they feed people, and they just trust that over the course of the time that God will bring healing, that God will deepen connections. And we just really saw how that happened.
I'm muted. Nice. Yeah, it's always incredible to see what God does when we take the first step, you know. And I think that's like, I know in Isaiah, in the prophet, he's like, "Here I am, Lord, send me," you know. And I think that sometimes when we have that attitude of just saying, "Okay, God, this doesn't make sense. I don't know why you've put me in this situation, why you choose to use me." But when you just say, "Okay, I'm going to go and take that first step," then like you said, God shows up in just all these little ways. And it's like, you just can't deny it. You look back, you're like, man, like God was in this and I didn't even know, you know? So yeah, it's so cool. Ashley, Jordan talked a little bit about the workers and the work that they do. And obviously we talked a little bit at the beginning about the holy home visits and how beneficial those are. Can you speak to the impact of those home visits? She's still muted. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it wasn't till one of the last days that I fully realized the impact of the home visits we had gone to. And it just happened when we were at Somerset, and we had been worshiping with the care workers, and they just went into this time of discussion, and you knew that it was something different that they were talking about. And it was a time where they were talking about the people in their community and who might benefit from a home visit, and they were sharing with each other the cares that they had for the community and the people in their community. And it was just something powerful to me that they would take time out of their day to talk about the people in their community. And it was out of compassion and love and genuine care for each other, and just knowing who might need some support. And when we go to the home visits, it's because we genuinely care for the people. We want to know what their needs are. We want to spend time with them, getting to know who they are so that they can feel seen and valued, just as God sees and values each of them, and that their stories matter and are important. And, you know, each of our home visits might have looked a little bit different, from going to carry wood, getting water, just visiting with them and hearing what their stories were. But the one thing that I'll never forget is just waiting for God to show up before we left. And just that he showed his presence in different ways each time we were there. And you could see through their stories their resilience, and just that God had a plan for them, and that they put their trust and their hope in him no matter what was going on in their lives. And just that we were able to be part of that and just share a little bit with them. And also the fact that they were able to share their stories and trust us enough to share with us and allow us to pray for them as well. And just, you felt like it was a time that was there to create fellowship and community, and just be part of each other's lives.
And I think that we can all relate to that right now in this season of isolation, like how important just fellowship is, how essential it is to us as human beings. We were created to connect with one another, you know, and so going to a place, you know, like Ashok and Sthobella, and you see how disconnected people could be from one another, and that people in their communities are taking the time to show up on their doorstep and saying, you matter to us. We love you. We see you. We're here to just sit with you and pray with you and believe together that God is in this. You know, it's so powerful.
Just to give perspective of like the surrounding of the Ashok area, it's like a mountainous kind of terrain that a lot of people, it's very distant from homes. You're not right next to each other. A lot of like where we're talking about the women caring for the kids are often, they're older, so they're not as able to just hop over to someone's house. They're also in vulnerable situations. And so a lot of times, a home visit is like the only time they actually will see somebody. Yeah. So I think the isolation thing really puts it back, brings it into perspective of like, when we need people, right? And Ashley, what you were talking about, like the care workers in those communities are specifically are talking about, okay, who have we visited, what are their needs, and they're there even when we're home now, but they continue to visit, and they're the ones who are the leaders and the champions of this, and we just got to come apart and be a part with them. So yeah.
So we did. We heard so many stories, and that's one of the most impactful part is getting to hear their stories, and so I was wondering, Jacqueline, is there a story of someone on this trip that has impacted you, of one person that has really challenged you and changed your perspective on things?
Yeah. Well, we've heard the statistic that, just the South African girls under the age of 5, the chances of them experiencing sexual abuse are greater than learning to read or write, which, really hit home. I have 2 daughters, so it went straight to the heart. And Jordan shared a little bit, or a few of you shared a little bit about the youth camp. And that, weekend, we were challenged to really speak into the youth, and to just, our theme was just their worth, the African girl and boy's worth. And so, that's what we focused on and what we prayed about. And I kind of felt like Jordan. I felt a little bit at the start of it. Honestly, what are these youth gonna want to do with an older woman? How am I gonna get close to these youth? And just doubting my own abilities. But as soon as they arrived, there was this incredible introduction we all remember of these youth. And there was one girl, 15-year-old girl, who I just right away, I just knew she was the one. I could see myself in her at that age. She was shy and withdrawn and held back. And so I just kind of pressed on her that first day. I just tried to be in things she was involved with. And, at first she was kind of standoffish, but I just felt she was on my heart. And that night we had just a time of kind of debriefing, and we were challenged again that second day to go deeper. And it felt uncomfortable for sure, but I knew God was telling me to just press in on her and to love her. And so actually at the end of the first day, we did connect a little bit more. We were on the volleyball court, and it might have been my poor volleyball skills that she felt sorry. I don't know. But at the end of that day, she did give me a hug, and that was just kind of affirmation for me. And then the second day, we did have an opportunity, like Jordan shared at the end, to just kind of go one-on-one with a translator. And that was just incredible, because she just opened right up for me and just shared about, the absence of a father in her life, and the tensions in her home, and just the pressure to go out at night and do things that she didn't want to be a part of. And it was, she was just sharing from her heart and asking that I would pray and that I would remember her. And so that was just incredible, to that gift that she invited me into that. And I'll never forget that, and I'm committed to pray for her each day. So just, God using me when I just felt inadequate, but just stepping into that uncomfortable, awkward stuff, and just trusting, and then just making these incredible connections and being willing to listen to their stories and love them. Yeah.
I think that a lot of us can relate to the I want to say fears, the fears of the unknown, of stepping out and even to sign up to go on this trip. For every single one of us, I think that there's always a little bit of hesitance. There's a little bit of why me, and what is God going to do, and I think that sometimes there's just doubt of what is God going to do, and what am I going to do when I'm there. Steve, I know you and Jordan shared a little bit too, just about just the hesitance of maybe going. I know before the trip you had all the excuses in the world, and I had to just keep knocking on the door, be like, you're supposed to come. And then finally the excuses ran out, and you decided to come. Can you speak to the benefit, like, that you personally, like, what did you benefit from going on a trip like this?
Yeah, so I think, like, for me, like, if I'm going to invest in anything, like whether it be time or finances or something like that, like even the people around me that wanted to invest in hands at work, like building trust is so important. And it's hard to build trust unless you see something. You see how it functions, how it works. So like going down there for the time that we did, like we saw leaders at Hands at Work praying. They were actually asking God, how can we be involved in this? Not just like, we're going to do something, hopefully God, you bless what we're going to do. They were like, you know what, God, you've given us so much. We feel like you're leading us here. We need you to show up in every single part of this. So it was people that were really prayerful about what they're doing. When we were doing the team camps, like Kulani, who's a leader there and works with Hands at Work, like Jacqueline, you mentioned this. We all talked about this. Like when we were doing the team camp, he got all the teens together and then called them all out one by one, like by name. And like he was doing this like they were rock stars, right? Like they were like the biggest thing in the world. And he called them all out by name and then said one really encouraging thing about them personally. And like these people know these kids' stories. Like they know them by name. They know the Go-Go's names. They know the stories. Like they're not just like a number to them. They're investing in these people and they know them so personally. So in order to see like the leadership take that in and see that work was just amazing to me. And another thing it's already mentioned too, like as far as investing in something, like they have found a system that's reproducible. So, and they're investing in like local leaders. So the local leaders will take responsibility for it. They're the ones that actually care, will carry on the work. They're looking to young people like Kulani and the other people were people that are leaders at Hands Work. Some of them have gone through the care points. Like they grew up going through this whole system and they're looking to these new leaders now and raising them up so that this can be sustained locally by people. They take ownership of it. So it's something that's reproducible, it's sustainable. And so like as far as like anybody around me or even myself that wants to invest their time and finances, like this leadership is trustworthy and the model is trustworthy and they're doing amazing things. So in order to, it was really important for me to see that and to know that if I'm going to invest going forward.
And what about the impact you see like in the care workers, the ones that are every day they're in this, they're the ones going to do the visiting, they're the ones cooking the meals, they're the ones when they see a group of 10 Canadians show up, did you see the impact of that on them? What was the difference you saw in their attitude, their mindset, their emotions? Yeah,
I think like, I guess the thing that I wanted to sort of like I had a lot of wrestles going through this. Like sometimes I was even thinking like, God, why can't you give these people a break? Like if I'm being honest, like it's like crazy, right? Like, and they just, again, they do it day in and day out and it's like, it's mundane. And so like when we show up and I think they saw our visual change. Like I think they saw us not visually change in the sense of like, oh my gosh, you guys look so like hard done by or something like that. But we were just like, these people inspire us so much, like their leadership and what they do. We come from a whole different world so far away and we're coming to see this. And we're just like, we're changed by watching your leadership. And I think that they felt that and they fed off of something like that. Right. And so I hope that carries into the future as well.
That's awesome. Winston, the quiet one here, the one who has been self-isolating and been away from his wife and child it'll be 7 weeks on Monday.
Boo! Am I muted? I'm muted.
You're not. No, you're not. That's good. You can do that. That is, yeah. You have definitely sacrificed the most to make this trip happen, and I know that there are blessings coming your way to you and your family because it is yeah. I know you didn't foresee that coming when you signed up. For those of you who don't know, Legacy One was there for 5 weeks. We were there 3 weeks before the C3 team came. So yeah, you've been away from your wife and kid for 7 weeks now. But now that you've been home, you've had 12 days of self-isolating. What is the one thing about this trip that still challenges you, that still kind of replays in your mind and that you're still trying to process?
Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so we kind of shared about one of the weekends we did a youth camp, right? And Chantel and I, we got to teach our like Legacy One life mission statement where, well, you explained it, where they would say, my name is so-and-so, I'm a child of God, and I am kind, creative, and loyal, and I will not back down, compare lives, or be afraid to fail. And Jordan and I, our team was Team Abo Gigabytes, which I have no clue what that means. But there was one of the kids on our team. His name was Professor. And you guys have heard a lot of stories of like different of the communities that we're working in. And so with Professor, I didn't know fully like his story or what's the family background and all that stuff. But on the first day it just seemed like there was like a rough, like a wall or an exterior that didn't want things to be let into his life. And so that whole day, I saw that, and I was annoying him in the most positive way, and just like encouraging him, and just speaking over his life of how God sees him, because that's how we should view everybody around us, right? And yeah, didn't really see anything throughout that whole day. And then the next day, we had like the students share their mission statement, and he was one of the first ones. So that's incredible. How has it impacted me is we don't know what God is doing. We need to step in, as everybody on the team has shared. Some were doubtful of, there's fears, there's doubts, there's insecurities. But if we step in with all those things, the unknowns, the fears, the doubts, and all that insecurities, God is going to show up. And sometimes we might see it right away, and sometimes we won't. And so how has that challenged me is, what is God asking of us each day? Waking up each day, and Father, what do you have for me? And maybe it is like for next year, like maybe God is calling you to go to like Hands at Work, and there's going to be fears, doubts, and all that stuff. Step in, because God is going to show up. And then what does it look like for us in Saskatoon? Like, what does it look like for Winston? What does it look like for C3 community? What does it look like for individuals at the workplaces, in their friendships, in their relationships? If we just keep on praying and believing that God is going to do something, we might see it right away, and sometimes we might see it years down the road. But God is doing God is doing stuff that we can't see. And if we see it right away, boom! Like, thank you, Jesus. That's incredible. And so the challenge for me is just like keep expecting and be expectant of God to move, because He is moving. Yeah. That's it.
Winston's bringing the preach. All right. Dang, getting fired up. This is awesome. Wow, it's a great way to kind of try to start bringing this to a close. We've gone almost an hour. I think we're a little bit more than we were trying to do. But I want to talk quickly about that, because Winston is right. And what is God doing here in this community? And so we want to quickly share with you guys just really easy how you can get involved with what God is doing through Hands at Work. And the simplest one, I shouldn't say it's the simplest, it's actually not the simplest, but one way you can get involved is you can come with us next year, okay? We are planning on doing this trip again. We want to make this an annual thing with C3 Church and this community. And so we're gonna try to put together another team that's gonna go again next year. So you need to start praying about that now. These guys I think we gave them 2 weeks to decide on whether or not they were going to come. From the moment we pitched the idea, we said, you guys got 2 weeks before we got to know and make this thing happen. And this team was incredible. And I can't say just to, for Chantal and I leading them, it was the people at Hands at Work have actually been messaging us, commenting on how well this team served together. And it is just such a cool experience. And I think that every single one here can testify just how we've grown together. The 10 of us have become a family unit in this, and seeing each other and wrestling, with what we were coming into contact with, and all of that stuff has just bonded us, and it was just such an incredible experience. And I think every one of us can say we've been changed. We're different because of this. And so I want to challenge you, start praying now about whether or not God is going to ask you to come next year when we do this again. As well, a way that you can get involved right away is to help financially with the work going on at Hands at Work. They sponsors just the Sthobella B community, and that's the community that we believe at C3 Church that we're really going to get plugged into, is the Sthobella community. There's 75 kids that they feed every single day as well, and we could attest this. You can ask any one of us about this. Of most of the communities that we visited that Hands at Work is involved in, Sthobella B is the least developed community. In terms of their washroom facilities are not very good.
You literally almost can fall in.
They're afraid that it's going to start sinking in and people will fall in. So they're trying to raise money right now to build new washroom facilities. They've been given land right now, and the kids love to play. They love to play like soccer and running and stuff, but the land that they have right now is on a hill. And so the land needs to be graded so they can get a flat surface to play on. So anyways, I'm saying all this because financially you can help. So we're going to put a link in this video that you can go to their website if you want to try to get involved financially with what is going on with Hands at Work.
Can I speak to that? Each kid, so it's sort of different setup. It's not like you sponsor a certain child, but I think it's like $25 a month is what they need to be able to provide for one child, the food that they provide. So if you were able to give $100, that would be meaning 4 children can be included in the care point. And already there's more children that are needing to be coming, but they don't have enough funding to be able to have them all come. So if I think in the link there's a place that you can have like a reoccurring donation. That's kind of what it goes to, and we'll give the like specifics on how to get it to that community. But it is providing so that kids can come and the community, the leaders they have all of the things that they need to be able to provide for the kids on a monthly and daily basis. And then the last one is actually really, really, really exciting and really cool that we are in Saskatoon, because you can get involved with Hands at Work locally. Okay, so this is really cool because outside of Africa, Saskatoon is the only other city that has like, they're modeling what they're doing in Africa and they're bringing it into local Canadian culture. So what they're doing is they've identified the most vulnerable. The children in our welfare system are those who are falling through the cracks and are just in a high need situation. So often they're cared by birth mom, by a grandma, or they're in a foster home. And so just like what Hands at Work's, their model in Africa is to support the care workers so that they have the energy, they have the resources, they are emotionally and spiritually, and they just are equipped to be able to care for the kids. That's what Hands at Work is bringing into a Saskatoon model. Obviously, it looks a little different than exactly what it is like in South Africa. But if you would want to get involved, it's actually like just in the really like beginning stages. So it's a really exciting time to be able to partner with what they're doing. But they are looking for people that can somehow be a support. And I'm not going to give like details because we can send you the main contact and get you in contact with the people leading that. They're amazing. But if you're sort of like, hey, I don't know if Hands at Work, I'll go or whatever, but like maybe God is stirring something, you can get involved in the ministry locally and be a part to encourage and support people who are in need in our own city. So
they also have a group for men, and they've been starting to work in group homes as well here in Saskatoon, where they take 2 men and they become a care worker for one of the kids in the group home, and they go and they they get to hang out with him and with one of these kids and mentor them and really invest in their lives as well. So there's a great opportunity for men out there. If you're looking for a cool ministry opportunity to actually walk alongside someone, there's also that as well. So Hands at Work is doing some incredible things here in Saskatoon. I think in the future, we'll probably have them come and maybe do more of a formal thing at C3 once we all can come back together and do that. We'll have maybe them come and share a little bit more about how we can actually get involved. But we just really believe that as a community, C3 Church, first off, thank you guys for those who helped us out with our auctions, our fundraisers, our bake sale, who just donated money. Thank you guys so much. Yeah. Seriously, it was such a blessing to every one of us on this trip. Financially, everything came together. Just so you know, you guys actually gave so much that we're actually able to actually donate some of it back to one of these projects that we're talking about. So you guys gave above and beyond, and now as a church, we get to bless this community. So we are so thankful. You guys are incredible. We can't wait to hug you all. For those of us who are, Lindsay's like chomping at the bit. She physical touch is her love language. So it's just like, anyways, we can't wait to get back together as a community. But we really hope that this time has blessed you guys. We know as a church that we just want to love people. We just want to love them. And this trip is really, I think that it is taught all of us what that looks like. What does love look like? And I think that coming home now, we are just so excited to see how that spirit, the same spirit that was there in Africa is here with us in Canada. And we know that we can just continue to grow as a community as we continue to fellowship and invite people into our world, into our lives, into what God is doing in and through our community. We just believe that there's such big things to come for C3 Saskatoon. So please stay healthy, wash your hands, isolate as much as possible. But come Monday night, we're not isolating, we're self-distancing. Is that what it's called now? Social distancing. We'll be doing that, which means that I think I can come within 6 feet of you and talk to you. So we can maybe. Anyways, hopefully you guys have an awesome Sunday, and we will see you guys soon. Don't forget Tuesday, men's sons group, and Thursday, Bible studies. Send us your message, your emails, and we'll get you on one of these Zoom calls. People are taking selfies now. It's getting crazy. Awesome. See you guys. Everyone say bye.
Peace. Thank you so much.